to be educated, but I'm so frustrated.
Yeah, man. So you know I had to get to it. We already talked about the big boys out of the west side of New Orleans and stuff like that. Hey, I couldn't finish this thing out without talking about Dr. John. Hey, this dude right here, I didn't know him back in the day, but as the years went on and I heard some of this stuff, I see why people rate him the way they do. This guy's incredible. He's no longer with us, but we're going to talk about his story tonight. Hey, you want to hear about it? Hang around to the bottom. We're going to have a little fun.
Came here with my best friend Jim. Here I am.
That right there is the unmistakable voice of the groove and funk of New Orleans, Louisiana. They called him Dr. John, y'all. To really understand the roots of that heavy New Orleans funk, you have to go back to November 20th, 1941, when Malcolm John Rebennack Jr. was born into the humid air of the Crescent City. Young Mac grew up in the 3rd Ward, and his education did not come from a textbook. It came from the grooves of the records his father, Malcolm Sr., sold in his shop on Gentilly Road.
I mean, so many really classic records that just fell into my lap whenever they'd get too scratchy to be on these jukeboxes. And my father would bring them home and I'd have them. And as a little kid, I used to think, wow, boy, that guy is special.
His father was a technician who spent his days hauling gear and fixing jukeboxes and public address systems in clubs all over town, and young Mac was his shadow on every service call. Whenever they would see a beat-up piano tossed in a back alley because the owner thought it was too far gone to play, they would drag it home. This is where the real schooling started. Mac was not just practicing scales. He was performing surgery on those instruments, using card string and thread to tie the broken internal parts back together. He learned early on that if a specific key was dead, you did not stop playing the song, you just found a substitute note that worked. That mechanical hustle is exactly what gave him the cross-card piano style that would eventually save his career. His aunt Andre taught him the Texas boogie on the piano when he was just a little weed hopper, but Mac was looking toward the local legends for his real inspiration. He would skip school at Jesuit High just to hang around the jazz clubs on Canal Street, soaking up the rhythms of masters like Huey Piano Smith. One man in particular, the legendary Professor Longhair, became his ultimate musical North Star.
Professor Longhair was one of my all-time heroes back as a kid. I got to meet him as a little kid because my father was not only selling records, but fixing like PA systems and stuff around town. So
by the time he was only 13 years old, Mac was already a professional, working as a session guitarist and a scout for local labels. He was right there in the thick of it, backing up giants like Art Neville and Joe Tex. This was the era of the hustle, where his band would constantly change their name to keep getting booked for talent shows. They were the Skyliners one night, the Loafers the next, and then the Night Trains or the Thunderbirds. But the music scene had a jagged edge, and as he got older, Mac walked right on the dark side of it. He was a man who knew the streets intimately, involving himself in petty crime, the narcotics trade, and even working as a pimp. This dude was running with a crew of characters with names that sounded like they came straight out of a gangster movie.
Guys like Marblehead, Pinhead, Man Duck the Geek. There was just a lot of characters, a lot of weed dealers, a lot of narcotic dealers, a lot of pimps, a lot of hoes. And the one I used to love is they called him Good Lord the Lifter, Pickpocket. You gotta love guys that was their names, you know.
In 1961, the street life caught up with him in a way that changed his destiny forever. During a brawl at a gig in Jacksonville, Florida, Mac tried to protect his singer, Ronnie Barron, from a pistol-whipping club owner. He tried to wrestle the gun away but mistakenly grabbed the hot barrel instead of the handle. The gun went off, and his left ring finger was nearly blown off his hand.
And when I got shot in his finger in an altercation, I should say, in Florida, I was kind of forced into...
That injury effectively ended his career as a premier guitar player. But because of those years fixing alleyway pianos with his father, he knew how to adapt. He applied that same fix-it logic to his own hands, reinventing his technique on the organ and the piano by finding substitute keys for the notes his damaged hand could no longer reach. But the law eventually caught up with his street dealings, and Mac served time in federal prison for narcotics. He was caught in a vice crackdown led by the local district attorney, Jim Garrison, who personally led raids with a pistol in his hand. When Mac was finally released in 1965, He was under a legal order that forbid him from even traveling through New Orleans, so he headed west to Los Angeles. Out there he became a heavy hitter, even sitting in with the Wrecking Crew, playing session work for the biggest stars in the world, from Sonny and Cher to Aretha Franklin. He was even right there in the studio, contributing to the Rolling Stones' legendary album Exile on Main Street. But the polished session work of the West Coast felt stiff and uninspired to a man raised on rhythm. He missed the spirit of home, so he cooked up a plan to bring the Bayou to California.
Don't be ashamed to call the doctor when there ain't nobody left. Tell you that.
He dug into the folklore of a 19th century medicine man and created the persona of Dr. John the Night Tripper. When he first stepped out for his 1968 debut album, Gris Gris, he was actually quite hesitant about taking the lead mic. On this record, he gave us the haunting masterpiece, I Walk on Gilded Splinters, which became an instant underground classic. No one else wanted the job, so he stepped into the light, wearing elaborate feathered headdresses and snakeskin robes. He brought a whole authentic ritual from the back streets to the stage using what he called tricknology.
The Dr. John thing was to take all of the tricknology that I knew of show business from over the years, like throwing glitter to make the effect of magic, snake dancers, and all the regular voodoo shows of New Orleans. And it was a little too authentic for the labels. They weren't quite ready for a guy biting a chicken's head off and stuff.
By the early 1970s, he started to show the pure musical soul underneath the feathers. In 1972, he released Gumbo, a tribute to hometown classics like Eco Eco and Big Chief. To understand the deep roots here, Big Chief was actually written by Earl King for Professor Longhair, and Mac was right there for the original 1964 sessions that featured Wardell Quezagay on the horns. The album breathed new life into the New Orleans sound and stayed in the charts for 11 weeks. Then, in 1973, he hit the jackpot with this funky anthem.
I've been in the right place, but it must have been the wrong time.
Yeah, man, right place, wrong time. This single was a massive crossover success, peaking at number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100 and staying on the charts for 20 weeks. It was officially ranked as the 24th biggest hit of 1973. That song made him a global superstar, but he remained a scholar of the rhythm. He followed that up in the same year with another classic.
Such a night. It's such a night.
Such a Night, which also hit the charts and became a staple of his live shows. To understand the technical magic of his fingers, you have to hear how he split the time between his hands to create that signature New Orleans bass sound.
You hear the one hand is playing half the time of the other. And the other thing is that two rhythm patterns going on is what most Latin Afro-Caribbean music consists of. And this is what makes it what we call funky or danceable music.
He understood that this unique timing, rooted in the Afro-Caribbean experience, was what made the music move. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Dr. John became the ultimate musical collaborator, working with everyone from B.B. King to Christina Aguilera. He even used that gravelly voice to do singing and voice work for the theme to the television show Blossom, the Lion King soundtrack. And I know you remember this big one for Popeyes.
New Orleans has the music that Mardi Gras beat, and when we get together, we sure know how to eat.
He won his first Grammy in 1989 for the collaboration Makin' Whoopie with Ricky Lee Jones, eventually stacking up a total of 6 trophies over his career.
We love what we do. We blessed to do what we do. Music is something that ain't nothing like it. I don't care what you do in your life.
He was even inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2011. Despite the fame, he kept a very grounded way of looking at his own success. Then came the big catastrophe. Man, when Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans in 2005, Mac became a champion for his city, recording the benefit album City That Care Forgot, which earned him a Grammy. He even brought his unique Mac speak to the television series Treme, where the writers eventually gave up trying to script him because nobody could talk like the doctor. In his final years, he paid tribute to his first hero, Louis Armstrong, with the 2014 album Skadat de Dat, The Spirit of Satch. The Doc had a long career and accomplished so many things in the music industry, but all that would now just become part of history, because like everything in the world, all of his talent and charisma had an expiration date on it. Unfortunately, Malcolm John Rebennack Jr. would pass away from a heart attack on June 6, 2019, at the age of 77. The music world lost a giant, but as they danced him home with a traditional second-line parade through the streets of New Orleans, everyone knew his spirit would never leave.
I tell you what, I'm one of them guys that all I wanted to do for years and years and years was just to play music.
He stayed funky until the very end, leaving us with a legacy of soul that will never be replaced. And that's just a few reasons why you gotta know his name.
So yeah, man, Dr. John, what do you think is going to be about? That guy right there is incredible. The way he looks, he reminds me a little bit of Chuck Mangione and stuff like that. But what he did for music was incredible. He's got an incredible story, just like the other guys from the West Coast over there. So I hope you appreciate that on the Music Mindset channel. I'm going to check you guys out next time. Thanks.